Request has been came from OK. So for that we need some type of configuration that should happen at the identity provider end also. Okay. We will see how we can do that and what are all the details that we need for configuring those configuration in both identity provider and service provider end. Okay, any questions on this? Okay. Now let's talk about all those stuff. Whatever we have seen in detail. Okay, so SAM request. SAM request is nothing, but a request has been initiated from service provider to identity provider for requesting the authentication information. That we will call it a SAM request. Okay. This flow. From here to this flow okay. It is requesting write to 3, 3 to 4. So this is the SAM request, okay. So here you can see SAM request and SAM request. Okay, SAM request is being sent from service provider to identity provider. That's what it is mentioned. SAM request is also known as the authentication request, is generated by the service provider to request an authentication wherein the identity provider. Okay. And SAM responds. Okay. Now Okta have completed that information, okay. And it have processed that assertion and it have created that message. Okay. That message needs to be sent back to the service provider, right? That we will call it the SAM response. Okay. We can say identity provider, sending the SAM response back to the application. Okay, SAM request is nothing, but application is requesting SAM request from Okta. I mean to Okta. So the request has been SAM. Request has been sent from the service provider to identity provider. So that's what we will call it a SAM response. Any questions on the SAM response? We can see the content of it. So it is generated by the identity. Identity OK. SAM response is given by identity provider. And what it is like? It asserts an authentication that user details. Yeah, basically it's a message. Okay. Here, if you're talking about a technical term, it's an authenticated user's assertion. Okay. But we are saying in a common term, it's a message okay. What message? Successful message provider to service provider. Yes. Correct. That we will call it a SAM response. Okay, is it clear? Yeah. Okay. Now another one is service provider, initiated flow, SP initiated flow. I think this I have covered in the first thing itself today. So identity provider. If you hit URL called https salesforce.com, okay, the flow starts from here. Because you directly hit the service provider right. So from this it goes to the service provider automatically. You are hitting that URL, okay. Service provider URL. And it will send for request. Request will be processed here. Response will be sent back, okay. This flow will call it as IDP. Sorry. SP flow service provider initiated flow okay. Because you are entering the URL of service provider, not the IDP URL. Okay, that we will call it as SP initiated flow okay. This is somewhat an important question in interview if you attend anything. So they will ask, what is IDP? Initiated flow. Or what is SP initiated flow? They will ask this question. Okay, so you need to be in the position to answer that. And the IDP flow identity provider initiated flow. Okay. That is nothing. But if you hit the URL or if you hit the application tile from Okta, that we will call it as identity provider. Here in this scenario, right, there will be no SAML request. Okay, only service provider will send a request. SAML request to identity provider. But here, in this scenario, SAML request will not be initiated because user enter the URL of IDP itself. Okay, he is not entering the URL of SP service provider. Okay, he is starting from the IDP. And IDP will process that user. And it will process the message that will be sent as a response to the application service provider. So no SAML request will come into the picture if you work on identity provider initiated flow. Okay. Okay. If it is an SP initiated flow, both the message will be sent. SAML request message and SAML response message. Okay, but if it is an identity provider flow, only SAML response will be sent from IDP to SP. Okay. Clear, right? Yeah. But mostly these days, all the applications, it's again integrated with the Okta. That means we are using like identity provider initiated on the right. So we are not using directly. No, you can do it. You can do it. We can do it, but it's an easy way, right? So again, you need to remember all the URLs. So, instead of like, we are integrating directly the applications into identity provider initiated, right? Yes. No, actually there is another scenario, okay. Whatever you are saying, those applications can able to make your tile available in the Okta console. Okay, there are a few applications which has been integrated with Okta for SSO. Those applications you cannot allocate tile in Okta. Okay, there is no option. Let's say, for example, OpenID Connect applications. Okay. Few. OpenID Connect applications cannot. The tile will not be available for those applications in Okta dashboard. So at that time obviously you need to go with the SP initiated flow. And also there will be you need to enter the service provider URL. And there will be some requirement also. Some application they will say like no, I want my users to access from the SP initiated URL only. I don't want my users to be accessed from the Okta console. Okay, I just want. Even though, if you are like Okta, tile will be not there in some applications, but their authentication should be integrating with Okta. Correct. But the tile will be not there in that Okta. Correct. It will not be there in the Okta. You can restrict it. But the authentication authorization will take place in Okta only. Because you have integrated that application with Okta for single sign-on. Okay. Yeah. Is it clear? Yeah. Sure. So the next thing, I'll come from the bottom. What does IDP sign-in URL? So if you read this, this is an endpoint on the IDP site where the SAN requests are posted. So I said right. So there should be a configuration should be given at the service provider end. So the service provider will send a SAN request to that service provider and that particular place that we will call it as IDP sign-in URL. Is it clear? Any confusions on that? It's just a configuration. Like I said, configuration. But how that configuration looks like? The configuration looks like a URL. You need to enter that URL in that configuration page. It will ask for IDP sign-in URL if you integrate the Salesforce application with Okta. So whenever you are doing it at the Salesforce end, it will ask you for the IDP sign-in URL. That means the service provider side. They need to enter our IDP URL. Correct. Okta's IDP URL. Okta IDP URL. They need to enter onto the Salesforce side.